pena llorona, todo es pena para mí. La pena y la que no es pena llorona, todo es pena para mí. Ay, he llorado por verte llorona, hoy lloro porque te vi. Ay, he llorado por verte llorona, hoy lloro porque te vi. Ay, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Ay, de mí, llorona, llorona, llorona de azul celeste. Y aunque la vida me cueste, llorona, no dejaré de quererte. Aunque la vida me cueste, llorona, no dejaré de quererte. No dejaré de quererte. No dejaré de quererte. Ay, ay, ay.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the 32nd video into the 2020 to 2021 school year. The recommended movie of the week is none other than Coco, and the song that you listen to is called La Llorona. La Llorona. Now, there's a more famous song, Un Poco Loco. I might be spelling these wrong. Don't mind me, that yo puedo hablar español muy bueno. Pero if I spell these wrong, please don't think that anything. But without further ado, watch this movie. It is great, and as any Disney movie, it has a great soundtrack that you just listened to. One of the songs, there are many, just like Un Poco Loco, that are amazing. So, lesson of the week, dividing by 1 to 9. What I mean is you're just dividing a random number by any number, let's say 3, which is between 1 to 9, and you get an answer. Yay. Question mark. So, just like division, multiplication, you're going to need to memorize this. I'm sorry, but that's just how it's going to be. You're going to have to memorize this because just like multiplication, you're going to need to use this later on. Like in multiplication, when we had this little method over here and we were multiplying like that, you would need to know these little things. You need to know what 4 times 7 is, or 3 times 7. You need to know those things in order to do this method. Now in division, there's a method similar to this. So if I said 474 divided by 34, I can't memorize this, but there's a method like this that I can do called long division that can get me an answer. But in order to do that, I need to know the little stuff, the 3 divided by 4, this and that. So think about it before I bring up the table, because yes, there is a division table, and if you want a better one, then you just go on the internet, division table, 1 to 9, 1 to 12, probably 1 to 12 preferably, because you memorize 1 to 12 on multiplication, memorize 1 to 12 on division. But, so if I said, let's see, 81 divided by 9 would get you what? Now, when I first started doing division, I would say, okay, what number times 9 would get me to 81, right? Remember how we wrote these two numbers get multiplied and they equal the first number? So that's how I always thought when I first started division. I was like, what times 9 gets 81? Now, obviously, when I was getting older and I saw more problems and it just got screwed into my head, I saw 20 divided by 4 and I was like, 5. I didn't need to think, what does 4 times something equal 20. What is that something? That something's 5. I didn't go through that process because over time I just got it implanted in my brain. And just like the multiplication, as it is still getting implanted into your brain, trust me, I've been doing this for years, you will not think like this. But since we are first starting out, I'm going to need you to think like this. So, some of you already have the answer because you were thinking while I was talking, but what do you think the answer is? What number times 9 would get you to 81? Perfect. The answer is actually 9. Now, if I did 15 divided by 3, same thing. What number times 3 equals 15? And you would say 5, because 5 times 3 equals 15. Now, this is basically the essence of the video. The main purpose of the video is to say if we had a number and we divided it by a number that's 1 to 9, you would be thinking this number times what number would equal that. So if I multiplied 6 by what number would get me 6 times that would get me 24? What number multiplied with 6 would get me 24? That is my thought process. What number multiplied with 3 would get me 15? What number multiplied by 9 would get 81? And 9 times 9 would get 81. 5 multiplied with 3 would get me 15. And 4 multiplied with 6 would get me 24. Now, this thinking process is for when you approach a question, let's say 28 divided by 7, and I'm like, shoot, I don't know what 28 divided by 7 is because I didn't memorize my division table and I forget that value. It's okay. There are a lot of stuff to memorize on that table. This is the backhand way, the back pocket. You say, I got something in my back pocket. I'm going to use it because I know whatever is multiplied with 7 gets me 28. And that's the answer. So whatever is multiplying with 7 and gets 28, that's the answer. And I know that is actually 4, because 4 times 7 is 28. Now that's how you can use multiplication that you've studied and practiced to help you with division, but over time you're going to need to understand that division. You're going to need to skip this thinking process, and if I said 32 divided by 4, you're going to need to say 8. You're not going to have time to think, oh, what times 4 equals 32? Oh, 8 times 4 equals 32, because you're going to have to be working fast, and you're going to need to know these on the spot. So the reason why I taught multiplication earlier was because when you start division, you're going to use multiplication to think about dividing. And once you get comfortable and you start realizing the patterns and the types of things and you start memorizing stuff and it gets implanted in your brain, you're not going to need the multiplication. But we use the multiplication when we first start as a helper, and then when we're done with the helper, we just toss it aside and we're only on division. Now, that time when we kick away our helper of multiplication is not now, and it won't be for a long, long time. But I'm just saying there will be a time when we're going to have to do division and we're not going to use multiplication to help us, because you're going to be graduating from that level to a more advanced one. So here's the table. Take a picture of it. I'm not going to move my mouse for like 5 seconds so you can get a good pause on the video. Take a picture of it, screenshot, whatever, and memorize it. But you're going to see some patterns as you approach these problems, such as this, the first one. Any number, let's move to the side. Any number. So if I said 3 divided by 3, any number divided by the same number is 1. Makes sense, right? 3 times 1 is 3. If I said 202.114 whatever divided by 20214, right? What would that give me? Exactly 1. Any number divided by itself is 1. That's a good trend to know. Now, there is a little trick you can use with tens like this. You'll see there's a little common trick you can use in tens. That will be discussed in the next video. So for now, I want you to focus on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If you want to, memorize 11 and 12, but do not look at 10 just yet. You can. Feel free to look at 10. But the only reason I did 1 to 12 is because maybe you want to know 11 and 12. I'm not going to go over those in a video. So I'm going to put them here so you can memorize them, but I'm not going to put them in a video. But because I put up to 12 doesn't mean you're going to memorize all of 12. Do not do 10 because I will be discussing that in the next video. And if you memorize 10, it would be a waste of time if you did not realize the trick. If you realize the trick, then by all means, kudos to you, but you probably will not, and I do not want yourself to waste all that time because memorizing 1 to 9 or even 11 and 12, which is highly recommended, is enough. So with 11 and 12, I'm not going to make a separate video for just 11 and 12, but you should memorize 11 and 12 because your multiplication tables went from 1 to 12, so your division table will go from 1 to 12. And if you're like, I don't want to memorize up to 12 and I just want to do 1 to 9 because that was the video, that's what the video is about, perfectly fine. Because in division, you can only memorize up to 9. Because for the method we are using, you only need to know from 1 to 9. You only need to know digits. And one last thing I want to note, just with 0, I'm going to make a quick thing. If I did 0 divided by any number, let's say 200, it would be 0. But if I did 200 divided by 0, there's an error. You can try it in your calculator. Type 0 and 200, you get 0. Type 200 and 0, you get an error. Now, I'm not going to explain why there's an error, but for this one, it's pretty easy to understand that 200 times 0 is indeed 0. So just so you know, if 0 is first, the answer is 0. If 0 is second, then the answer is an error. You will definitely not see this because this is probably a bit above your level, but just for any of you that were wondering and saying, hey, what about 0? Well, anything divided by 0 is an error, but anything with a 0 in front is 0. So if you just memorize those two facts, you got your 0 part down. So just get 1 to 9 down. And remember, for 11 to 12, that's up to you. If you want to take the extra mile, go ahead. But for the things that we need to do and for long division, which is the method that we're going to be using to solve big divisions like 202 divided by like 24, the method that we're going to be using to solve for this only requires 1 to 9. And for 10, hold off on it. Next video, I'm going to teach you a nice trick with 10, hundreds, thousands, whatever. So, alright guys, hope you enjoyed this little video here. Stay safe, stay cool, and stay learning. Bye-bye.